Yo guys, what's up? Ampro here. I'm here with a very delayed part 2 of the fireball tutorial. So, let's see the final product. First, we added lingering flames. So as you can see, there's some lingering flames right there. It looks kind of weird, but I think it's okay. You can change the texture if you want to. There's also linger damage. As you can see, when I stand in the fire, I take a ton of damage. When I get out, I'm fine. I also added it so that you can like jump through the fire, take less damage. There's also burn damage on attacking the dummies, and as you can see, the dummy loses some HP. Along with the burn damage from that, it does a lot more damage if you're standing in the flames and also get hit by the fireball. Cool thing about the lingering flames is that it accounts for the surface size. So I hit it onto the edge here, so you can see the flames don't go off to the side, and they do attach to surfaces just like that. The flames also have a pretty good radius changing mechanic, so you can make the radius a lot bigger if you wanted to. It's pretty accurate, and the server side lines up with the client stuff. I'll show you guys how to change the gravity speed of a fireball. So let's get right into it. First things first, we're gonna have to fix some of the things that I forgot to mention in the last video. So when I pull over my fireball tutorial here, I'm gonna need us to go to the starter player script and put it in replicator and find fireball. So within here, we're gonna fix the crater parts for the humanoids. So what would happen before is if I threw a fireball and it hit a humanoid, the crater would be like on top of the dummy, which was kind of weird. So I'm gonna be changing that this time, and it's a pretty easy fix. We're gonna go to where we hit things. So basically right here, we make the crater. So right here, we're gonna add a check, and we're gonna be checking if we actually ended up hitting a if result instance, which is the part that we hit with the fireball. Dot parent find first child humanoid. I can't type today. Humanoid, and this is equal to nil. Then we do all of this, make all the rubble and stuff. There's another way we can make it work. I'll show you guys that too, but for now let's just do it like this. Now whenever we hit a character or a dummy, the crater won't appear on top of the dummy sideways. We need to address the tick thing. So I wasn't aware of this at the time, but tick is now deprecated. It's better for you to use time. The reason why tick was deprecated, I think, was because it starts from the beginning of like the world or something at 0, and it's a very large number now. Instead, Roblox recommends us to use time because time is simply the time from the server being made. Every time you play, you start at 0, so the number isn't that big. Meanwhile, tick is like a really big number because a lot of seconds have passed since the world epoch or something. Next thing we want to do is we're going to be addressing the change for gravity. So if you want to change the gravity, you can just go over here to gravity and set it to whatever you want. The higher the number, the greater the gravity. You could put a negative number and you'll get inverted gravity. If you put 0, there's going to be no gravity. Simple as that. Next thing we're going to do is set up the server modules and be handling some of the server damage. So right now all we have is this, which pretty much does nothing. We want to make sure that our server handler is able to access some of our specific modules for the server. So we're going to add a module loader as well. But to add a module loader, we need a module. So let's just make one really quick. Make sure you call it fireball server. And in here, let's just rename it. So we've renamed it here, and now we're going to go back to our little server handler, and we're going to add the actual function that will lead us to load this module. Once this module is loaded, we can call it straight through here using dictionary stuff. So let's load the modules. I've done this before. It's pretty much what we did in the replicator over here, but I'm just going to load in all the sets, including fireball, and then when we fire the server thing, we want to basically call the get the module within here and then call the skill that we're using, which you can do like this. And the two parameters that we pass are going to be client and data. So yeah, now we have a little connection from the client, which is our replicator here, or our tool actually, to the server, and the server sends it this information, does the little fireball server, and it also sends back to the replicator, which does our fireball effect. Let's go to the fireball server now, and we're going to be adding some of the functions that we need. We have a blank function in here right now because I didn't actually end up using the charge on server. If you want to use the charge on server, you can, and I recommend maybe to use it as maybe like increasing the radius of fireball based on the charge amount, but for the simplicity's sake, we're not going to do that for this video. We're just going to straight up do the two functions that we need, which is fire, client, data, or like I'm writing fireball, it should be fireball server. Alright, now within the fire function, it's basically going to be a repeat of all of this ray casting, because we need to trace the ray on the server as well, so the server gets access to it. Except we don't really care about the frame rate anymore. We can just straight use the 60 FPS that the server runs on. Probably the best way to do that is to use the heartbeat connection to run service. I'm gonna basically copy over a couple lines of this, I think start time, params. So I've copied over some of this, and the fireball starts at data.cframe times cframe 100, and that's the same over here. Fireball starts at data.cframe times 100, and this fireball right now is just a figurative object. It's a table of values such as position or key and value pairs. Key is position, values this position value, and we're going to use a connection so we can disconnect this when we want. Another way you can do this is using bind to render step, but I'm not going to do that. So on this, for this code as well, we need to have a timeout. So this is the same timeout code that exists on our client script here, but make sure you're using the same max time. This should be your max time. As you can see, it's all here. If you want, you could copy all of this over like this. Just put it in here. That's one way to do it. And then you could just simply use max time here. But in my completed version, I actually just wrote the real values. The same thing with speed here. You can just use the speed like that. And for the speed, go into our fireball. Yeah, it's at 150. So it's going to be 150 here as well. Every time you change something on this client side, you got to make sure you change it on the server side as well. And vice versa, if you change it on server, you got to change it on client. Otherwise, the client and server are not going to match up, and it's just going to look weird. So let's do the raycast. It goes like this. We take the fireball position, velocity times delta time, minus this, which is just gravity. Then we multiply by delta time, and then we're passing in params, which is this stuff right here. Let's do a little bit more. If we hit something right on server, that means we also hit something on client, since they're basically at the same positioning here. We want to disconnect that connection, and we want to make our hitboxes and stuff here. So let's do that. If results, then connection disconnect. We can do all of our hitboxing and stuff here. Otherwise, it means that we're still in the air, and therefore we should apply gravity to our fireball so that it goes down as in an arc shape. So let's do that. We can change 80 back to grav. It should be grav value. Fireball position equals fireball position plus velocity times delta time, and we're going to subtract the gravity direction from it. It's going to be squared because acceleration is gravity and acceleration is squared. Let's do the hitboxing now, which is even easier, honestly. We're going to make an overlap params because we're going to be using the spatial query feature. And in our overlap params this time, we're going to use a blacklist, and we're blacklisting the character, the map, and effects. All we want to do is hit enemies and enemies are not part of the character, not part of the map, nor part of the effects. And make sure that we are using fire right here. This is in fire, and though you don't want to put this on client or anything, because you don't want to do the hitboxes on the client for this case, because precision is not needed. A lot of people are also asking me like, why do you do hitboxes on client? I only do them on client if it needs like precision or it has relativity to the player's position. In this case, it's relative to something that is already on the server, so all we need to do is to do the hitbox on the server. Other times, if you need precision like M1s or moving M1s, if your player is able to move during their M1s, you definitely want to do the hitboxes on client. Just make sure to like do some sanity checks on server or some anti-cheat on server so that exploiters can't just exploit all of your hitboxes since they're on client. Next, we're going to do a radial hitbox here, and this code is pretty common in my scripts. Basically, I make a hitbox using workspace get parts bound in radius, and we're going to be sending in the result position. The radius is going to be 7, or in this case, radius. And then we're going to be using these params, and the reason why is because we don't want to hit our character, right? We don't want to be able to damage ourselves with the initial fireball. Now, throughout our hitbox, we're going to find if the part in our hitbox is part of a humanoid, or if it's a player body part or something. And if we've not already hit this player, then we assign this as true, so then we know that the next time we hit another body part from that player during the same hit, we're not hitting the same player. Then we make them take damage, and we're going to spawn function here. So this is on a new thread, so it's not yielding the script here, and this is going to tick through 5 times, and we're going to take 1 damage every second. So it's like very little burn damage from the initial fireball, but the linger damage is what's going to do the most damage, and the linger damage script is basically this, but without the linger damage, and we're going to loop it 8 times. So here it is. We spawn this on function again, so it's not yielding anything, and then in here we loop 8 times, and we make a little radial hitbox here. In this case, you could probably not use this part right here. So we have the server side, and we can probably test this out already, and we can test that. We should hit this guy. It's 55 since he now has 45 HP. If you hit him again, he should die. I can hit the floor and I can take damage myself, but I can't see the flames yet, so now we gotta make the little ground fire, and that's gonna be on the client side. So let's go over here. And basically, I want to do it right before we make the crater. And this code is pretty simple as well. It's a bunch of raycasts basically, and we loop quite a few times. This is pretty inefficient. It's like 55 or so parts for one of those radiuses, but it's purely cosmetic and it's on the client, so it should be pretty smooth. If you're worried about your game just like lagging out, you can reduce this 11 here if you want. And let's go. One of the problems that we gotta avoid is that what if we hit a player, right? Where do we do the little flame circle? It should just be below the player, right? So that's what I'm gonna account for. We're gonna use splash result. And if we hit a humanoid, then we should just use the ground vector. Otherwise, we're going to actually raycast and do stuff. So let's add an else here. This is for if we do hit a player, just raycast straight through at the ground. Honestly, you could just use the C-frame value and do everything else later. Here's the math for it. Okay, there we go. So you gotta add in M params as well. M params is a special raycast. It's just for the maps. We don't want to hit anything else with our fire circle area of effect. We only want to hit the map with it. You don't want like the fire to linger on the player's face or something. It'll be weird. So let's do it like this. We're going to do a whitelist, and we can only hit the workspace.map, which is containing all of our map items. And here's the math for it. We raycast from the humanoid root position, and we go in a circle. So this is like the rows and this is the columns. If you think of this as like a 2D array, but it's like radial. We raycast in the direction from this position to that position, the radial position. Basically, everything appears like in a circle, and this is what determines the circle, and this is what determines, this part is what determines like how far the ray should go. So like if there's actually any surface to make the circle on, and these are just the parameters that we're passing. And for the else statement, it's pretty similar, except we use the result position from the original fireball as our position instead of the dummy C-frame here. And then we use the explosion as reference to where we should be positioning our area of effect circle. And overall, I think this script runs like this little section 60 times. Next part is we're gonna actually take the physical part, the flames, physical flames. I'm gonna give you guys the model. Here it is. It's just like a little cylinder. You can't really see it's a cylinder, but it's just a little flame particle. Just slap it into the assets here. It's a fireball. There you go. And so if we do manage to hit something with this splash result, so if we hit the floor or if we hit like a wall, then it is time for us to make the flames in position up here. There we go. And then after 4 seconds, we disable the little particles in there, and then we destroy it after 1 second. Now when we play the game, there should be a little indication of our fireball leaving an area of effect. And wow, look at that. Leaves an area effect, 5 seconds, it's gone. And you'll see they take an equal amount of damage. And if I stand in here, I'll take damage too. Pretty cool. Keep in mind that you do have to change all of these. If you change any of these, I forgot to do this. See this 7? Make sure you turn that to radius. So I'm gonna change the speed to like 350. Gravity, I'll keep it at 80. So I'm gonna change the speed. Speed of our fireball increases dramatically, and it goes a lot further. Let's do a negative number to prove that it actually can just straight up go into the sky. So I'll do something like crazy dramatic, like, I don't know, 90. Make sure you change this side too, and you'll see that it actually curves up. And see, it curves up into the sky, which is pretty goofy. So yeah, thank you guys for watching this one. See you guys in the next video. Let me know what you guys want to see in the next video in the comments, or you can join my Discord. We have a suggestions channel there. And if you ever have like trouble with this script, join my Discord. We have a scripting help section where a lot of pretty epic viewers can come in here and help you with your problems. You could try DMing me. I might not be able to respond in time, but the server's got like 1,000 people, and so I'm sure like if you ask in the server, someone will be able to help you. So yeah. Also, shout out to my friend for editing this video. I'll put his channel links in the description as well. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.